Welcome everyone to Game 3 of Warbanner. If you haven't seen the first two videos and you've skipped straight to Game 3, well, interesting way to view the series, but I'll give you a quick wrap up of where we're at. We've had a reasonably good win over Warriors of the Dark Gods Game 1, another good win over Highborn Elves Round 2, but this is a carnage system, and while I've won both the first two games quite well, I've only got approximately 6,000 points so far. The top guys are pushing 10,000, so we've got a bit of catching up to do and need to be a little bit more aggressive. Anyway, so Game 3 is Brew of the Champions. Each round of this tournament has a unique scenario or secondary objective. So Game 3 Brew of the Champions, there's a full description there on your screen at the moment. Basically I only have one scoring unit, so I'm essentially going to end up ignoring the secondary. No special real abilities from the duelist this game. So yeah, basically we've just got to push forward and smash us some Vampire Covenant. We're playing John this game, who's you know, a pretty handy player, playing Vampire counts lately, and looking forward to this game as John is another on my list of opponents I'm yet to beat. So here's another great opportunity to take another name off that list, which I always enjoy doing. I think we're down to just 3 guys now on the New Zealand tournament scene that can claim to be undefeated against me, so we'll see if we can get one more off that list. So here we have a look at John's Vampire Covenant list. A few interesting options here in his list. The Vampire on the Chariot is an interesting option, and he is strong enough that it could certainly cause my Tree Fathers some problems. Fortunately not, the double altars and the 4 evocations that we came across at ETC, but still enough magic support that he'll be a bit of a challenge. Halberds on the skeletons are a little bit of a pain, as are the ones on the Barrowguard. Do hope though that I'd be able to grind through those units if I put enough into them. Thunderstomps from the Tree Fathers are pretty handy. Maybe get the Kestrels or my Lord into the flank and we'd chew through those units probably okay. Winged Reapers, fortunately there's only 2 of them, but that's still potentially a problem, as is the Dark Coach. Overall, I don't think this is a terrible matchup for me, but yeah, certainly there's enough there that I need to be very careful and thoughtful with how I play this game. So just a quick list analysis of my army for this game. I've been through it a few times, so just picking out a few key things. Big block of spears with the BSB and the spear. Not really making great use of them so far. Still got the double matriarchs with divination and the choppy lord on the horse, who I've really grown to love. Probably the standout feature is basically no shooting in this army at all. So moving on to deployment, I have a feeling John won the role to pick sides, and I chose for him to have the first drop. We kept trading drops basically 1 for 1 most of the way through, and then I think I finished deploying first with maybe +2 or maybe 3 on my dice. So anyway, moving from right to left, yeah, I wasn't entirely happy how I deployed this game, but we've got our Pariah Maidens on the far right, along with a unit of Kestrels and Tree Father. We've got our Dryad Matriarch unit there sitting in the wood to get the casting bonus. Next to them, our big block of Spearmen, a Tree Father, unit of Kestrels, and a unit of Dryads. We're kind of a little bit too compact for my liking, with the building there in the way. Yeah, just the way John was deploying out of the map. Yeah, I'm not entirely happy where everything is, but hopefully we can fix that a little bit with our Vanguard. So now looking at the deployment of the Vampire Covenant, we've got a unit of bats on the far right hand side. Next to that, the Winged Reapers and the Vampire on the Chariot. Big block of skeletons next to that with the Corpse Cart and zombies in behind. The Barrowguard unit next to that, followed by the 2 units of bats and the Dark Coach. So John's deployed very centrally. Unfortunately, I've squashed myself up a little bit, and I'm not really in a good position to try and surround him like I would normally like to. It seems I didn't take photos of my Vanguard. Essentially, I moved the Kestrels on the right forward, making sure they were out of charge range for the Vampire. And the ones on the left hand side, they just moved forward and to the left a bit more, again out of charge range of the Dark Coach. I was a little bit cautious with this as there was no guarantee I was going to get first turn. So unfortunately I also failed to get a picture of what spells each of us had. Yeah, I know he had the Touch of the Reaper, which was a concern during the game. I think he also had the bonus to re-rolls to hit and re-rolls to wound for his spells. For me, I think again I had Fate's Judgment, Unerring Strike, Scrying, might have had Know Thy Enemy or Look to the West. I can't remember which ones, but anyway, John won the roll and chose to go first. So luckily I was a bit cautious with my Vanguard. So turn 1 Vampire counts. He brings the Winged Reapers across further to the right hand side, and otherwise basically just nudges straight forward. Doesn't really come very far forward at all. Just got some bats out in front ready to chaff me if need be, and the Vampire on the Chariot just push forward to make sure I can't get around behind him. So yeah, those Kestrels on the right hand side are a bit stuck now as they can't afford to let the Chariot or the Winged Reapers charge them. In Magic, he rolls up a 9/6 Magic phase, and I failed a channel. So he goes ahead and starts casting his spells. First, I think he gets a magical move off on his Vampire on the Chariot, and then I believe he does raise some more zombies as well. And I think I held my dice back just to make sure that he couldn't cast his Touch the Reaper on me, which I think is what he's measuring there. And that was the end of his first turn. So Sylvan Elves turn 1, you can see I moved my Kestrels further up on that right hand flank there. The bit of cake you can see on the plate there is the remnants of my son's birthday cake. He happened to have his 10th birthday on day 1 of the tournament, so the guys were rather kind to him, and we stopped the tournament to sing him happy birthday and present him a cake, and they even gave him one of the spot prizes from the tournament. So it was a nice special touch for the weekend. So in other moves, we basically try and swing around on the left hand side as well. You can see I've moved my Kestrels right along that board edge, brought my spare unit of Dryads over that side as well, and otherwise we've kind of just hung around in the center a little bit with the rest of the army. At this stage, not really quite sure how we're going to play this out. I need him to push forward so I can get around behind him, whereas he's at the moment not really pushing forward, so a little bit of a standoff at the moment. In Magic, we managed to roll up a 6/5 Magic phase, although fortunately we do channel as well. And to be honest, I have absolutely no idea what I cast. I have a feeling I went for a big Fate's Judgment on his Vampire on the Chariot, and it failed to cast, and so that was pretty much the end of the Magic phase. So that brings us on to Vampire Counts turn 2, and as you can see, he continues to basically just hold the center. He hasn't moved forward, he's just adjusted his angles and pushed forward slightly. In Magic, he grows a few skeletons and zombies, and that's about it. We move on to Sylvan Elves turn 2. So turn 2, we basically play it safe. We drop the Kestrels back again into safety as we can't get past the Winged Reapers and the Vampire on the Chariot. Everything else kind of just shuffles around, making sure it's out of charge range, and that's about it. Really just waiting for him to push forward and give me an opportunity. So in Magic, we roll up a 10/6 Magic phase. Both John and I managed to channel, but still a good phase ahead of us here, hopefully. So firstly, we go for an Oaken Throne, which John lets through, which I'm fairly happy about. And then we managed to get, I think it was Fate's Judgment, possibly Unerring Strike, off on the Bat unit. basically just trying to pick off some of his chaff and maybe pick up some points. Getting a little bit worried at this stage that it's a carnage game and we're having a bit of a Mexican standoff, so just trying to pick up any points I can. So that brings us on to Vampire Covenant turn 3. So turn 3, John starts to push forward a little bit more, angles the coach to make sure my Kestrel still can't slip around behind him, pushes the single bat forward pretty much as far as he can while the other bats get ready to chaff, and the blocks all start ominously advancing towards me along with the Cadaver Wagon. The Wing Reapers now move back towards the middle of the board a little bit as the Vampire on the Chariot is pretty much covering that whole right hand side. It's going to be pretty hard for me to get my Kestrels or Briar Maidens past that Vampire. Yeah, not entirely sure how we're going to apply the pressure on him that I want to at this stage. So moving on to Magic, John rolls up an 8-4 Magic phase and manages to channel, so a handy phase for him in return. He kills off a couple of Dryads with, I guess, must have been a Ring of Fire. And I'm also fairly sure that he got another evocation off, increasing the number of skeletons in that unit, I believe. So moving on to Sylvan Elves turn 3, and all of a sudden the game cracked open as my Lord decided he would fail his frenzy test and charge into that block of skeletons. At this point I figured, oh crap, I'm in big trouble here, so we might as well in for a penny, in for a pound. So we slammed pretty much everything forward. The Kestrels charged into the Vampire, just hoping that we can hold him long enough that he can't hit the Briar Maidens in the flank. The Tree Father comes forward, hoping that if the Briar Maidens can survive long enough, he'll be able to join that fight or delay the Vampire even longer. While on the left-hand side, things get a little bit tangled up here. The Spearmen can't really get anywhere. They reform and get ready to move forward. The Tree Father stumbles forward as well. I have a feeling he may have failed his charge. The Dryads and the Kestrels both move back away from the Dark Coach, hoping the Kestrels are going to end up in a position where they can charge into something. And I can also see there I missed out on John's magic phase, that he created a new unit of zombies there by the Spearmen as well, just to get in my way. In Magic we roll up a 6-3 magic phase. Unfortunately though we failed channel. Can't remember if John channeled or not. So we aren't able to get a lot off, but we do manage to get Break the Spirit off on the unit of skeletons that I'm in combat with, so hopefully that's going to help me out a little bit, just reducing the amount of damage he's going to do, and I'm pretty sure that was all we managed to get off. So going on to combat, and it was pretty brutal. At the end of combat all we have left is one Briar Maiden, our champion, and the Lord. Fortunately the champion had scarification up, and so at least she was able to survive all the attacks put on her. I suspect we might have still just won combat with the charge and the amount of wounds we did, but it would have been awfully close. So yeah, that's a lot of points that now look like I'm set to lose. Although to be honest, I actually expected to lose that round of combat and be in even more trouble. Didn't get a photo of it, but the Kestrels did manage to survive their round of combat with the Vampire on the Chariot. Have a feeling I might have lost combat, but just held. Haven't got a photo of it though, unfortunately. So moving on to Vampire Covenant turn 4. So John starts with a charge from the zombie unit that was summoned into my Matriarch bunker. He also charges his Graveguard, Barrowguard I think they're called now, into my Tree Father on the left, while the Bat Swarms just maneuver around. The Cadaver Wagon, the Winged Reapers and the Coach all just maneuver across a little bit further as well. And that is about it, with the Vampires and the Skeletons still being in combat. So in Magic, John rolls up a 6-5 Magic phase, but I managed to channel to make it 6 on 6. again, struggling to remember exactly what he cast, as unfortunately John wasn't using magic cards and I didn't take enough photos. I believe he got off a reroll to hit on one of his units, but I can't quite remember, unfortunately. So moving on to combat, on the left hand side, my Tree Father does a great job against the Graveguard. It looks like he didn't take any wounds at all and managed, I believe, to get off a really good Thunder Stomp, as well as winning combat. So the Graveguard also crumble a bit as well, so we get them down to below 20 models. It was at this point I've decided maybe I'd been a little bit too cautious and I perhaps should have pushed forward with my Tree Fathers and Spearmen earlier, as that fight went a lot better than I expected. Moving on into the centre, and my Lord and Briar Maiden champion continue to do a fantastic job there with Break the Spirit and Scarification still up. He's only able to inflict one wound on me. In return, I did a reasonable number of wounds back. He crumbles again, but only slightly, as I didn't win combat by much. And on the far left hand side, the Vampire makes short work of the remaining Kestrels and is now in a great position to charge into my flank. And finally, the Matriarch Bunker, as expected in a forest, absolutely cream the zombies that charged them, killing them to, I think there was only one or two left, which meant they crumbled, and that unit is now gone. So moving on to Sylvan Elves turn 4. We're still a bit tangled on this left hand side. That Spearman unit really is just kind of getting in the way, but we managed to charge the Dryad Matriarch unit into the flank of the Graveguard, hoping we can destroy that unit this turn and reform to face the Cadaver Wagon, as I don't particularly want that to hit my flank. Spearmen just turn around and try and reposition. They're kind of stuck there and behind, unfortunately. I'm probably not going to get to do much with them. And you can also see the Tree Father has charged forward into the skeleton unit, hopeful that he will swing that combat massively my way as well. So moving on to Magic and Time to Perfection, we roll up an 11-6 Magic phase, and we also managed to channel to make it a 12 dice Magic phase. That's perfect timing. So we managed to get off Break the Spirit again on the skeleton unit. Again, more importantly, perhaps the Scarification on the champion to make sure that unit survives. It looks like I must have also recast Oaken Throne, as I've healed the wound on my champion as well. I can't remember what else I cast, but I have a feeling he stopped all my divination spells this turn with his dispel dice, and that took us on to combat. So in combat, one combat went very much the way I hoped, and the other one not quite so much so. So the Tree Father and the Matriarch unit don't do as well against the Beauregard as I had hoped. There's still a rank of them left. Wasn't quite able to kill enough of them, didn't even get them all killed with the crumble, so now his Cadaver Wagon can hit me in the flank, which is an issue. On the other hand though, the Tree Father definitely made a big difference against the skeleton unit, and you can see now that he's down to, I think, only about 9 models left, so he should be able to finish that unit off next turn, and just took one wound on the champion again, so very successful turn there for me. That brings us to Vampire Covenant turn 5. This ends up being the last turn of the game. Unfortunately, failing to get 6 turns in again. I think it's a bit of an issue with doing these battle reports. It's definitely slowed down my games for me. I've got to try and work out a way to make things happen a bit more quickly, I think. So John charges his Vampire on the Chariot into the flank of my Tree Father. He charges the Cadaver Wagon and the Wing Reapers into the flank of my Matriarch unit, which is a little bit of an issue. The Dark Coach also goes into the flank of my Tree Father, so it's about to get real messy real fast. What looked like quite a standoff game is potentially going to end up quite bloody by the end of this turn. In Magic, he rolls up a 6-4 Magic phase, but I'm able to channel. and he mostly focuses on bringing back his Graveguard and his Skeletons. I have a feeling I tried to stop his first evocation and failed, which meant he was able to get a couple of them off, which was a bit of an issue for me. In combat, the Tree Father and the Briar Maidens and Lord managed to hold their own against the charge of the Vampire and the Skeletons. I do lose the Briar Maiden champion, but we managed to still hold on with killing enough skeletons. I have a feeling that I may have even won combat there, as I think his Vampire Lord has taken a wound from crumbling. In the other combat, the Coach and the Beauregard, the Wing Reapers and the Cadaver Wagon do a pretty good job there. I take another wound on my Tree Father, but probably not nearly as many there as John would have liked. I lose the entire skirmishing Dryad unit, but the two characters are still alive. We're able to kill enough that I think I won combat by 1, but the necrotic aura from the Wing Reapers means that he doesn't crumble at all, so we pretty much just hold there for my next turn, which will pretty much make or break the game. So Sylvan Elves, turn 5, my Kestrels make a charge over the Spearmen and into the Bat Swarm. Might as well pick off a couple of points there that are available. And that was about it really for movement. I couldn't do an awful lot else. So we went straight on in to Magic, and we rolled up a very timely 10-6 Magic phase. Unfortunately, we failed at channel, but that's still a great timely roll. And in Magic, we managed to get off a divination spell on my Lord to give him guiding light. To be honest, I can't even read what that blurry card says, and it's too long since this game for me to be able to remember. But that was about all we actually managed to get off in our Magic phase, which brought us on to the last phase of the game, Combat. So my Tree Father was able to tree whack and kill the Vampire, and we Thunder Stomped and killed the Skeletons with my Lord to clean up the points there. The Kestrels were able to destroy the Bat unit that they attacked. I lost one of my Dryad Matriarchs, but the other one holds on, and while he inflicted a couple of wounds on my Tree Father, he wasn't able to kill that, and unfortunately I was not quite able to destroy the last of the Beauregard to pick up full points there. So in the end, that is how the game finished up, and I think neither John or myself were actually all that happy with the result of the game. Both of us had hoped to probably do a lot better than we did. So in the end, we finished up with 2,048 points versus 1,109. So again, nowhere near enough points out of this game. Again, the top few players have got further ahead of us. I think the guy who is leading the tournament now is very close to 15,000 points. So he's a long way ahead of me. Overall, I think the theme from all these first 3 games really has been I was nowhere near aggressive enough. I was still in the mode of conserving points, as you would in a normal tournament scene. But also I think I've been underestimating perhaps how effective the Tree Fathers and the Spearman unit could be. Probably need to be just pushing forward a lot more aggressively, perhaps being more reckless and being prepared to lose the points in order to kill more things and pick more points up. At the end of the day though, I guess a win is a win, and happy to get my first win against John, but not particularly happy with how I played in this game. And I think the dice perhaps even favoured me that Tree Father hung on for an awfully long time against the Beauregard and the Dark Coach, and I'd have to say he was very lucky to do so. So I think, yeah, a bit of frustration from both of us in this game, but it was still an enjoyable game. John is a heck of a nice guy. He, enjoys having a friendly chat while we're playing, and he's just fun to play. So I enjoyed my game, even though really wasn't very productive for either of us to help us catch back up with the leaders in the tournament. But 3 games done. day one, though, still has one more game to go. 4 games on the first day of this tournament makes for a very, very long, tough day. And game 4, we are up against James, who is currently leading the tournament. He's just finished giving the second placed player quite a thrashing, picking up close to maximum points again. He's pretty close to maximum points from all 3 games. Happens to be the co-captain for Team New Zealand, so going to be another tough game, and it's pretty important that I win this game and win it quite big, as if I don't, James is pretty much going to have the tournament wrapped up with 2 games left to play. So yeah, sorry about the quality of this video. It's been a little while since this tournament happened. Seem to be missing quite a number of photos with this game as well, and just really struggling to remember exactly what happened. So I hope you've still enjoyed the game. Yeah, I will endeavour to try and make sure we fix some of the issues that we've had with this battle report, and hopefully the next ones will be of better quality, and try and get these out to you fairly quickly, as we have New Zealand Masters coming up in a week, and then I'll have another 5 games that I'll be looking forward to bringing you. And yes, it's a lot of games to get out before 2.0 finally drops, which I'm really looking forward to sinking my teeth into and play testing more of. So anyway, thank you for watching. Hit share, hit like, hit subscribe if you haven't, and we'll bring you another one very shortly.